full-time MMA?
MMA.
Nothing
Yeah.
else?
My life, man, yeah.
Or is this full-time MMA now?
I love full-time MMA right now.
Back to the daily grind. Thanks for checking out the channel. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back pickle biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
UFC 216 Tony Ferguson versus Kevin Lee took place last night, and boy did it deliver. If not mistaken, there was a submission finish in all three of the final fights, right? The main event, the co-main event, and then also Fabricio. Yeah, man, hey, great fucking night of fights. Holy crap. I usually don't really do just like a post-fight press conference recap, but there was a lot of stuff. You know, this was a big card, a lot of implications going into this, so I'm definitely going to recap this. There was a lot of stuff said, a lot of people talked. I mean, a lot of people wanted to hear what these dudes had to say, so I know I did. And then I'm also going to recap that UFC 217 press conference, which wasn't even, to me, this one was a little juicier. There wasn't much talk at the UFC 217, I mean, but we'll get into that after this video. With that being said, the UFC 216 post-fight press conference, it started off, who was it? Fabricio Werdum, I believe, yeah. And one thing I wanted to say that I didn't talk about in the Demetrius Johnson actual video when I was reacting to it, that they asked about the Demetrius Johnson move. I want to talk about this real fast. This is a fucking, I'm sure somebody's already thought about it. Demetrius Johnson, you want some money? You want some fucking money? This is how you do it. You name that move the Mighty Bar. I mean, somebody else in the press conference said the name Mighty Bar, but I'm thinking, because Demetrius, they asked Demetrius what he was going to call it, and he said, oh, you know, like the Mighty Arm Bar or something. And they were like, oh, I was thinking the Mighty Bar. Dog, tell me you wouldn't buy a fucking protein bar from Demetrius Johnson called the Mighty Bar. And every time you take a bite of that, you think about that slam into the arm bar on Ray Borg. Holy crap. That was literally one of the, it was God tier. Someone in the comments said it best. That described it was God tier. Holy shit, that was insane. Slammed Ray Borg. Ray Borg said he didn't even realize he was in a submission in this. He said he thought he was gonna scramble out once he got slammed, but Demetrius had that arm. God damn, Demetrius Johnson. Holy shit, that dude is the fucking, hey, Demetrius Johnson, as I said, he's the GOAT. I don't think he's the pound for pound #1, but I do believe he is the greatest fighter of all time. If you take Demetrius Johnson's skills, what he does, and put him on somebody of that same body size in any weight class, if you give Stipe Miocic Demetrius Johnson's skills, he's beating everybody. You give Daniel Cormier Demetrius Johnson's skill set, he's beating everybody. That's what I mean when I say GOAT. Fucking, he's the greatest fighter of all time, the greatest skill set. Now, with pound for pound, to me, is somebody successful at multiple weight classes, which does not describe Demetrius Johnson, but that's not what this video is about. Okay, so did it start with Demetrius Johnson, man? I know if it did, Demetrius didn't say much, because they were talking about the Mighty Bar. Yeah, okay, it started off with Demetrius Johnson, okay. And yeah, they pretty much just, you know, he doesn't say much. That's why I didn't write down much for Demetrius Johnson. He's not really going to talk no shit. He's in there. He broke the record, you know. They did ask him, I guess he pulled up in a Bentley or something, and you know, he got a new manager, so they're asking him if we can expect him to start flying private jets and pulling up in Bentleys on us, and he was like, no, I just had car service, dog. It ain't that serious. My management lined that up. But he said, yeah, he didn't have a name for that move yet, but he did say they work on that. He said he pulled that move off in like training. He said the embedded guys wanted to film my actual sparring because so much of the stuff that I do in my fights, I do in sparring. So they wanted, you know, just to be able to show that. But I guess he doesn't allow anybody to watch his sparring. So, and then Dana White also said in this press conference that I guess that's Demetrius Johnson's move. You know, his coach, Matt Humes, told Dana White, yeah, no, he's did that multiple times in sparring. I mean, that sounds good and all, but motherfucker, that's I've never seen that before in my life. I don't think that's something you just work on. I mean, Demetrius Johnson's a savage, but I mean, it makes sense though. I mean, I do want to see that become his move. I think he should be famous for that move. You know how like the NBA symbol is like that dude everywhere, the Jordan symbol. Everybody knows the fucking Michael Jordan symbol, his legs spread and the fucking hand up. To me, that's like what Demetrius Johnson did last night, man. You know how Dan Henderson's symbol was like him, his logo was him knocking out Bisping? This needs to be Demetrius Johnson's logo somehow, because not only was it on the night he was breaking history, but it was also like one of the most impressive submissions we've ever seen. As far as most unique, we've never really seen somebody slammed into a fucking armbar like that. Holy crap. Like, that needs to be named the Mighty Bar, and it needs to become a protein bar today. I want a case of them. I literally, you don't understand how dope that would be. A Demetrius Johnson Mighty Bar, protein bar. After that, the Mighty Arm Bar. Oh my God, I fucking need a case. Let's go. Somebody get Demetrius Johnson the Mighty Bar patent and shit, dog. I swear to God, that's so. And you know, I mean, you know how like they call the Von Flue choke the Von Flue choke. You know, now they're starting to call it the Open St. Preux choke. You know, a lot of these guys get famous for like finishing moves. I don't want to call it. Okay, I grew up when I was a kid. I watched a lot of WWE wrestling. You know, like The Rock had the rock bottom, Stone Cold had the stunner and shit like that. Like, I think that's a dope thing for a fighter to have their own move. It's just something to market. So the Mighty Bar for Demetrius Johnson is like perfect. And did you guys see how like the crowd was chanting Demetrius Johnson's name in Las Vegas? That was dope to see. I think a lot of people are, and Dana White even talked about this when he was on this press conference. He said it's looking like people are starting to come around to Demetrius Johnson. He said Joe Rogan said even in all the jiu-jitsu matches he's ever seen, he's never seen someone do what Demetrius Johnson did with that fucking slam into the armbar. So and dog, Joe Rogan's watched more fucking fights and jiu-jitsu matches than I could fucking watch probably in the next 10 years. So for him, that to be the only one he's ever seen, come the fuck on, dog. And even Dana White did come out and say, you know what, Demetrius Johnson is the greatest to ever do it. He admitted it tonight. He had to fucking, I mean, he didn't really backtrack on anything he was saying about Demetrius Johnson, but he did say he apologized to Ray Borg. He felt a little bad for disrespecting Ray Borg by almost taking the fight away and giving it to TJ Dillashaw, because he said Ray Borg showed up to fight. But that was in Dana White's segment. This is really Demetrius Johnson's. But Demetrius Johnson didn't say much. He just said, yeah, he called it the Mighty Arm Bar, which I do think we need to switch to the Mighty Bar. And he said fighting guys his size feels easy. He did say guys his size. You know, what did he say, 5'2", 5'3"? I don't know how tall he is. But he said fighting guys his size just feels easy, you know, like. But I mean, maybe it's time. Now this he didn't really talk much about going up to 135 pounds. Like, I'm surprised people didn't really ask him more about that. But either way, Demetrius didn't have much to say. He fucking broke history, came through with the fucking Mighty Bar, and I need a case. You get the point. Next, Fabricio Werdum came out. You know, Fabricio Werdum was scheduled to fight Derek Lewis at this event. Derek Lewis, Fabricio Werdum found out his fight was canceled 3 hours before the event. I guess Derek Lewis woke up and his back locked up. He couldn't get out of bed or some shit, Dana White said. So the doctor said, if your back's locking up, you can't fight. And then he said, well, but Dana White, it's funny, he reminded the crowd, you guys remember one time like Matt Hughes fought Royce Gracie, and that morning Matt Hughes' back was locked up and they had to pull him out of the bed, and he still beat Royce Gracie. Because I'm not trying to make Derek Lewis look like a puss, I'm just reminding you guys. I was like, well, you kind of made Derek Lewis look like a puss, but no, no, he didn't. But still, I was pissed off whenever Derek Lewis pulled out of this fight. I mean, the whole point of him taking time off was to heal up his back, and the whole point of him unretiring was because his back felt better. So how the fuck is your back better, and then this happens 3 hours before the fight? One thing about Fabricio Werdum, though, is he didn't have to take this fight, even though he kind of needed to. He got put in a situation here, man. He was supposed to be fighting Derek Lewis, who was a top contender, who, you know, definitely puts him in title contention. It probably didn't guarantee him the title shot either way, but he moves to fighting somebody unranked, nobody really knows of, and the only way really. It could have been a lose-lose for Fabricio, but lucky for Fabricio, he went out here and like literally it was a picture-perfect fight, which was great. It was literally like a flawless victory, and that's really what he needed with that replacement opponent. Because I feel like if the fight would have even been close, one second, someone's at the door. Be right back. All right, I'm back. Okay, so what I was saying is I feel like if the fight with Walt Harris would have even been like a close fight, people would have discredited Fabricio. Because it would have been like, oh, look, unranked guy tagged you up, or an unranked guy was holding you down. Or however, Walt Harris, if he would have had any success, people would have counted that against Fabricio. Like, oh, look what Walt Harris did to Fabricio. But Fabricio Lewis came in there and he didn't get hit once. He got a submission, and I believe under the first minute. It was definitely in the first round. I don't remember. It was early in the first round. So he had a flawless victory, came in there and got the job done, which was amazing because it showed. yo, these dudes are not on my level. You know what I'm saying? It showed. And one thing you have to consider is Fabricio had that fight on 3 hours notice too. A lot of people, and this is completely the same thing, because whenever people talk about, oh, Nate Diaz is fucking 2 weeks notice or 10-day notice versus Conor McGregor, they don't realize whenever somebody takes a fight on short notice, the person that accepts the fight, in this case Conor McGregor or Fabricio Werdum, the fact that they're taking a fight versus a different opponent, just because they had a fight camp, they weren't preparing for that guy either. Conor McGregor wasn't preparing for Nate Diaz. Fabricio Werdum wasn't preparing for Walt Harris. So he was preparing for somebody, and he even said that Walt Harris is a southpaw, Derek Lewis wasn't. So he, on 3 hours notice, he had to fight another heavyweight, and especially in the heavyweight division, these dudes are coming with heat. You're fighting, you've been training for someone that's not a southpaw, and now you fight a southpaw that's throwing heat on 3 days notice. Unless you're a fucking dominant or a championship level fighter, you're not going to be able to really make those adjustments unless you're fucking really at the top of your game. So a lot of people don't take those short notice fights because it's like, hey, I wasn't preparing for him, so you know what, I'm just going to wait till I can prepare for my opponent. But Fabricio said, you know what, I'm taking it, dog. I'm taking the fight. And that's dope, because it would have sucked. It would have sucked if that Fabricio, even though Derek Lewis had to pull out, boy, I would have been pissed if Fabricio couldn't fight. So that's why, even though Walt Harris came out there and got smoked, I fucking take my hat off to Walt Harris for damn near saving the card, really. He saved the Fabricio fight. I mean, and now he's got Fabricio on his record. Even though it was a loss, man, he learned from that. You can learn from that. He was going to be fighting Mark Godbeer. I don't know what happened with Mark Godbeer. If they just told Mark, I don't know how that happened, you know, because that's who Walt Harris was going to fight. But, hey, the card got saved, and Fabricio came out there and motherfucking did his thing. And so I believe, since he had a flawless victory versus Walt Harris, that still propels him into those title contention spots, because he just lost that split decision to Alistair Overeem. Alistair Overeem's going to be fighting Francis Ngannou soon at UFC 218. Well, Fabricio's not hurt at all. He could fight Stipe before then if necessary, even though that's probably not going to happen. But we were under the impression the winner of Alistair Overeem versus Francis Ngannou gets to fight Stipe next. Well, with this performance by Fabricio, where is he at now? Because it's not. I don't want to really see Fabricio fight the winner of Ngannou Overeem. I think either Werdum should get a title shot now, or the winner of Alistair and Francis. Because I don't want to, let's say Alistair beats Francis Ngannou. I don't really want to see Werdum versus Alistair right now, just to see who fight. We just seen that fight, literally. You know what I'm saying? And it was a controversial split decision. We don't want to see that again. And then what? If Francis wins, he's probably fighting Stipe. They're not going to make Francis beat Alistair and Francis and Werdum to get to Stipe. So I don't know what's going to happen here, man. I would be dope to see, maybe we can get Stipe Miocic on that card. I mean, when is Stipe going to fight again? I know he's Detroit. They were thinking about Stipe for Detroit. I really like the idea of Stipe in Detroit anyway, because, you know, he's like your everyday workers, man. You know, he's still firefighted out and shit. He, instead of doing media, he'd rather be, you know, saving a motherfucking cat out of a tree like a firefighter, or putting out a fire. You know what I'm saying? Having that camaraderie with this dude. You know what I'm saying? He still hasn't quit his job. So Detroit, to me, whenever I think of Detroit, I think of fucking a working town. So I just think that would be dope to kind of have Stipe there. They've only got one title fight on that card, Max Holloway and Frankie Edgar. So I don't know if they're gonna do it. It would be dope though, because whoever wins out of Werdum and Stipe fights the winner of Alistair and Francis. Now, the only hold up there, I believe, would be Stipe Miocic. I don't know if he wants to fight, if he's got his contract situations, you know, settled or what. But I think that would, I think, I'm fine with if Werdum got a title shot here, just because he came out to fight clean. He came out to fight clean. Even though it was against Walt Harris, it wasn't his fault. He was coming in to fight Derek Lewis. And I think even though Walt Harris was unranked or whatever, hey, he did his thing, flawless victory. So we'll see what happens in the heavyweight division with Fabricio Werdum. But he came out and he said he was hoping to get a title shot with the win over Derek Lewis, which is interesting. That's what Fabricio actually had to say, because even if Fabricio beat Derek Lewis, it's kind of hard seeing him get a title shot. But just because the Alistair and Francis fight's going on, but at the same time, he could get this title shot. Actually, that's kind of what I want to happen now, because they could do it on Detroit, just because Fabricio came out untouched. He's untouched, so you can get, he said he'll fight again next week. So hopefully we can keep Fabricio active. And the only, you know, he's 40 years old. We might not have 5 more years with Fabricio. You know, the clock's fucking ticking a little bit on this dude. He's one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, and I would love to see him get another title shot before he goes out, because hey man, Fabricio's that dude, and this performance was also dope. But he was hoping to get a title shot with the win over Derek Lewis. He fought a guy that in Walt Harris on 3 hours notice, who was a different style. He said he believes he deserves the title shot now, but he will fight anybody. He said he does want to take a vacation for a couple of days, but then he's ready to get right back to training. But he did say this is another option. This is another option that they talked about. Derek Lewis versus Fabricio Werdum in New York. So that could happen. Not for a title. It'd be a 3-round fight. It wouldn't be even, it wouldn't be the title shot he was hoping for, but still, his bout with Derek Lewis, that still would be a fun fight. I would still like to see that fight now that the fight didn't get completely canceled. I was pissed off at Derek when I first heard the news, but hey, I'm still a fucking fan, dude. If your fucking back gave out, your back gave out. I've had some shit like that happen, man. So it is what it is. So I do. If Derek Lewis is healthy, I mean, I'll still pick. I was picking Fabricio to win the fight. I'll probably still pick him if they do it in Madison Square Garden. But that would be a great fight to add to Madison Square Garden. Fucking heavyweight swing and bang. Fabricio Werdum, one of the greatest of all times in that thing. Let's fucking get it, man. Fabricio versus Derek Lewis. That's actually what I want to see in New York. That'd be dope, because it's kind of hard to just see Fabricio beat Walt Harris and just straight get a title shot over, especially with Francis versus Alistair already scheduled. So if he could beat Derek Lewis and still be healthy, I don't know. It's good shit, man. So interesting things to happen in the top of the heavyweight division, and shortly. Can't wait to see what Stipe's plans are. Want to hear from him. Maybe he'll be on Ariel Helwani's show Monday. Who knows? By the way, I'm gonna do a live stream today. I don't know. Ooh, I gotta fucking talk to my girl before she takes her motherfucking phone to work. Alright, let's get this over with. Ray, we still have a lot to talk about. Holy shit. Ray Borg came out next. Fuck, dog. Y'all know there's only like 2 people that I'm kind of not a fan of. Like, I'm a fan of, I'm too much a fan. Like, I'm a little, probably too easy on some people, I guess. But there's not very many people that are fighters that are like, I'm not impressed with, or that I'm not a fan of. I'm pretty much a fan of everybody. But Ray Borg, as you guys know, like a week ago, he made my not a fan list. I was just like, man, I'm just not a fan of this guy. Now, he did a couple things in this post-fight press conference that I was like, fuck, dog, this is why I'm not a fan. But at the same time, I like Ray Borg, man. It's a love-hate relationship. I mean, there's not a lot of love. But he said some shit like, he was just like blaming it, and it's because he's so young. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just he's so young. He's gonna grow up, and I'm sure I like Ray Borg at like his personality and him as a person. It's just some of the things in his fight career that have rubbed me the wrong way. Like, you know, a couple of times he missed weight, and then some of the things he said in the octagon and shit. But it's not nothing big. So I do kind of like Ray Borg, and he's some cool stuff in this interview. But I still kind of felt like, dog, you're blaming this shit on your age now. Like, if you're going to say, oh, you know, age just got the better of me tonight. It's like, what? You should have been saying that before you signed up for this fight. Don't tell me that, oh, yeah, I was just too young in there. Motherfucker, you were too young to take the fight then. If you know what I'm saying? So I didn't like how he was saying, oh, yeah, I guess age just got the better of me. I felt like, but what he was saying is he got away from his game plan, you know, and he was, they said Demetrius Johnson keeps his chin high a little bit, and he's not really good at bailing, so he wanted to kind of he felt like he could outbox him and outstrike him, but he got away from his game plan. And then he said, but age got the better of me tonight. And it's like, well, no, what happened was you got away from your game plan. You know, that's what got the better of you. I don't know, but at the same time, you understand that. I completely understand it. You know, a lot of fighters, he's not really just making an excuse, but, you know, you got an ego, you got pride, and you're in front of the media. You know, you don't want to, you still ain't selling yourself short. And it was one of the things, this is one of the things that I really liked that he said. They said, so how did you feel in there now that you were in there with, like, the greatest fighter, you know, and that Demetrius Johnson usually being 2 and 3 steps ahead of everybody? How did it feel in there with him? He said, man, felt like I was, like, fighting like a future me. Yo. Oh, I fucked with that. I liked that from Ray Borg. Felt like I was fighting like a future me, you know, because I'm usually 2 or 3 steps ahead of everybody on the scrambles and stuff. So it was weird, but yeah, it felt like I was fighting a future me. I liked that. I'm looking forward, even though fucking I was giving Ray Borg a hard time before this fight. Now that the fight's over, I am looking forward to see how he does against some of these top contenders, man. I do want to see like Ray Borg versus Wilson Hayes or Henry Cejudo or Joseph Benitez or just a lot of these guys, man. I gave Ray Borg a little bit of a hard time, but it is what it is, dog. He came out, he fought Demetrius Johnson, and he was on the wrong end of history being made, and he was on the wrong end of the mighty bar. So that's pretty. They asked him about that, and I think I already talked a little bit about that. They asked him, like, did you realize Demetrius Johnson was like about to mighty bar your ass? Like, did you realize you were about to get put in like a historical fucking move? And he was like, no, I just thought I was getting slammed. I thought I was gonna scramble away as soon as I hit the floor, and then he like had my arm and shit. So, you know, hey, it is what it is. It was pretty dope though. So I gave Ray Borg a hard time. Fucking respect to the dude. I still do want to see the fucking Mighty Bar immortalized though. I'm not gonna lie. I can't wait for a case of fucking Mighty Bar protein bars, dog. I can take them. I'm telling you. Fucking, if anybody's listening, get the fucking news to Demetrius Johnson. I need some Mighty Bars. Even if he hasn't even fucking thought about it. I want a case. I don't give a fuck, dog. I'll advertise them motherfuckers for free. How about it? Just because that shit's so dope. That move was so fucking dope. The Mighty Bar. I fucking love it. It is what it is, dog. Next that came out, and another thing about Ray Borg though, they asked him how he felt about being at this weight class, and one thing we got to do is fucking give props to Ray Borg. Even though he had to pull out of that fight, it was illness. He showed up. He said at 6:45 in the morning. I guess 7 is as early as you can show up. He said I was 15 minutes early, and I weighed 1 pound under just to show you guys. So he showed up at 124 pounds and early. He had no problem with the weight cut, and one thing I'll say is even though he fired his nutritionist, well, the UFC's got free nutritionists for everybody. I wouldn't be surprised if all these UFC fighters start firing their fucking nutritionists, because Dana White said, and when he was talking about Kevin Lee's weight cut, it's because he wanted to fucking cut weight his own way. We've got free food, free equipment, free nutritionists, free everything at the fucking Fighters Performance Institute that you can use, and he chose not to. So that's what Ray Borg said. He said he was getting a little help from the nutritionist at the Performance Institute, and look, he did fucking better than he did with a nutritionist. So I do think a lot of fighters should start doing using that Performance Institute, because from how it was sounding from Dana White, holy shit, these dudes they're in the game, man. They got state-of-the-art equipment, trainers, fucking, and everything's free to the fighters. Literally, the food, the supplements, the advice from the nutritionist, the physical therapy, training. Dana White said he feels like Francis Ngannou was his fucking roommate. He said he's in there so much in the kitchens and shit, like, hey, let's go. That's dope, though. So with that being said, man, Ray Borg showed up and he did his thing. I don't think he's going to have problems with weight issues in the future. And if he does, God, that would be so corny as fuck. Like, oh, he's about to fight Henry Cejudo or some shit, and he misses weight. Brum, brum, brum. Oh, that would be fucking terrible. But I think we don't have to look forward to Ray Borg really missing weight in the future. So hopefully not. Next was Kevin Lee, man. He came out, he was devastated, he said it, and you could see it. He cried a little bit. I mean, he had his fucking glasses on and shit. It was funny, he was talking about Tony Ferguson having his glasses on the inside. But he had his glasses on after the fight, but it wasn't like, you know, that's no shade, though. He did show his eyes. It ain't like he was doing it to hide his eyes. He showed his eyes, and he gave Tony Ferguson his respect. I mean, you can say what the fuck you want about Kevin Lee, and then that's one thing I am going to address real fast, you pussies in the comments. For one, you motherfuckers talking about, oh, motherfucker, don't act like you ever picked Tony Ferguson. Don't act like you weren't picking Kevin Lee. You were rooting for Kevin Lee because he was black. You can all eat so many fucking dicks, and those are black. How about that, you fucking pussy? Literally, whenever this fight got announced, what was it, a month, 2 months ago, I did a Kevin Lee and a Tony Ferguson versus the world. On both of those, I have who I think would win out of each other. And on both of them, I've got Tony Ferguson winning. Oh, and by the way, I've got a UFC 216 fucking predictions video, and I've got Kevin Lee crossed out. You fucking Momo, get the fuck out of here. But Kevin Lee, one thing, you know, people are like, oh yeah, you talked all that shit, now blah blah blah. It doesn't fucking matter, dog. He was selling the fight, just like Conor McGregor. I had another, like, day one hitter, I believe, saying, don't compare Kevin Lee to Conor McGregor. Why would I not compare somebody to Conor McGregor that reminds me of Conor McGregor? He talks a lot of trash, He fucking dresses up in shit that I wouldn't dress in, rich people shit. I guess I would say he stunts on people. You know what I'm saying? He likes the nice cars, the nice watches. The only thing the nigga's missing is a mink, but he's got on his own version of the mink with that fucking bandanas and shit. I don't know all them damn name brands that nigga be wearing, but you can tell this shit is fresh. So that's why he likes to stay fresh. He likes cars, and he likes flaunting his money. He likes talking trash. Who does that remind you of? The fuck are you talking about? Don't compare him to Conor McGregor. You can eat a dick as well. And then also, there were some other people. Oh yeah, one thing I did love seeing in the fucking comments, bro. A lot of people saying, hey, I hated on Kevin Lee before this fight. I didn't like him before this fight, but he proved me wrong. Even though he lost this fight, respected Kevin Lee. And that's fucking dope to see right there, because that's kind of where I was. Like, whenever I went back and watched all of his fights on Fight Pass. Like, if you hadn't watched all of his fights on Fight Pass, and you just seen some of his trash talking, and you only seen his Chiesa fight, and you were like, who the fuck is this guy? You know, you're like, man, fuck him. I don't like him whenever you first meet him. That's how it was with me and for Conor McGregor, bro. Whenever I first found out about Conor McGregor, I wasn't a fan. I was like, who the fuck is this dude talking all this trash? And then all you see is what the haters say. Oh, he's never fought a wrestler, blah blah blah. Whenever you first meet somebody and it's a bad first impression, you listen to the naysayers. So whenever you first hear about Kevin Lee and you see people saying, oh, he's never beat anybody but Michael Chiesa, oh, he's a boring, he has no striking, it's like you probably just haven't watched his fights and you just heard the naysayers and you had a bad first impression of him because you've seen him talking trash. But like I was saying, no, he is a well-rounded fighter. He's a guy that uses his striking to set up his wrestling, to set up his jiu-jitsu. One thing about, how about that fucking armbar he got out of in that fucking fight? That was dope, bro. That shit looked like it was in. He jumped over him like that, man. That high level shit. He got caught in the triangle choke, but I don't give a fuck, dog. He was gassing out. And you can say that's not something that normally happens with him, but he is not in the 5-round club. That's one thing you can say. This was his first 5-round fight because Michael Chiesa, even though it was scheduled for 5, he didn't make it 5. But he had a terrible weight cut and he fought with staph infection. He could have backed out of the fight, but it meant too much, and that's something you gotta love. Some of these dudes can back out of these fights. Some dudes will back out of the fight. Like, sorry, man, I got staph infection. And he had a bad weight cut, which is nobody's fault but his. Dana White said that. He chose to cut weight his way instead of the right way. He didn't want to use the Performance Institute, so don't blame anybody for the weight cut but Kevin Lee. But I'm just saying, you can't tell me it wasn't a factor. Kevin Lee did say he's thinking about moving up to 170. He said he's been fighting at 155 since he was 17 years old. He said he can get stronger and move up weight divisions. He said he thinks that he was going to start pushing for a 165-pound division. That's where he should be. But until then, who knows what's going to happen. I mean, I don't know if Kevin Lee's going to actually move up to 170 right now. It might just be because he lost this fight. He's feeling down. He does, it was a bad weight cut. I'm fine with him moving up to 170, but I just want to see what he could do with like a really, really good nutritionist instead of just going his way. He's a wrestler. He knows how to cut weight, being a little stubborn, a little hard-headed, feeling like he's got it down to a science and yada, yada, yada. Well, just maybe, just maybe there's somebody else that can help you with these weight cuts. I understand you got it down and you feel like you know what you're doing. I'm just saying, maybe just let somebody talk. I'm just saying, bro, because there's some people, that's how a lot of fighters are like that, bro. They got that ego. No, I know how to cut weight, bro. I don't need help. I don't fucking need help. Or he don't know my body better than me. I mean, that is something Ray Borg said, but the thing about Ray Borg saying that is he still got help from the Performance Institute. Now, just like before Kevin Lee makes a brash decision and completely moves out of this weight class and goes up to 170 pounds, where he'll probably be less dominant for sure. Kevin Lee has looked really good at 155 pounds. I don't know if it'll be the same at 170. I mean, we see what happened with Gastelum going up to 185. I mean, he's looked good versus some people, but at the same time, when you see him versus Weidman, it's just clear. You might just need to fuck with the nutritionist and get that shit down to a science for real, because some of these dudes are going to be just too big for you. Like, Weidman was just too big for Gastelum. Even though he clipped him once it gets to the grappling, it's just a little too big. Now, one thing about Kevin Lee is he's a really, really, really big really big lightweight. I think he starts his cut, or he walks around at like 205 or some crazy shit. In his post-fight interview, he said he was 185. and that was just, you know, he cut weight a few days yesterday. So I mean, he's a really big lightweight, so he might be decent at welterweight, but there's still going to be guys like Tyron Woodley that are just bigger than Kevin, though, right? But in my head, but I mean, I want to see Kevin Lee stick to 155 if he can make the weight. But if he feels like he's getting too big, if he can't make the weight cut, and he doesn't feel like a nutritionist can get him there anymore, I mean, you don't want to see him fucking missing weight and gassing out. So maybe it's better to try and go up to 170. Maybe he needs to hit up Conor McGregor for that, since he ain't gonna be fighting Conor anytime soon. Maybe he needs to hook up with that cardio. What's that shit? Conor McGregor fast. Conor fast, whatever the fuck Conor created, that Conor McGregor cardio shit. Maybe Kevin Lee needs to, you know, you get the point. But I fuck with Kevin Lee, man. You could really tell this fight devastated him and he didn't want to lose it. It meant a lot more to him than, man, maybe even I thought a little bit. Shit, I was just surprised to see. You could tell he really wanted it at this post-fight press conference. He took the loss kind of hard, but it is what it is, dog. At least he got this opportunity, and he still earned a lot of people's fucking respect tonight. And I didn't even have him win this fight. He's only 25 years old. I said 24. Somebody was like, hey, he's 25, not 24, dude. Like, fucking tomato, bro. Literally 1 year. Was his birthday yesterday? I really don't give a fuck. And so you get the fucking point. He's really young in his career, and he's got room to grow, not only in weight but in experience. He just got a fucking fight with Tony Ferguson, and let's talk about that for a second. Tony Ferguson might be the best lightweight on the planet, man. I'm talking about lightweight. Clearly, now he did get tagged a little in the first fight. Tony Ferguson said you got to take one to give two, but I don't know how much of those you can just take from Conor McGregor before you go down. So he's going to have to be careful with that. But at the same time, bro, Tony Ferguson's on a 10-fight win streak in the lightweight division. Conor McGregor's really only fought one guy at 155. We got to be honest. We're not talking about Nate Diaz either. He fought him at 170, and it was, you know, Nate Diaz. I mean, you get the point. He's only fought one guy at 155 in the UFC, Eddie Alvarez. Tony Ferguson's pretty much fucked up everybody. So, this is one thing I will say. If Conor McGregor is able to beat Tony Ferguson, he will be the GOAT. Because people talk about, oh, he's not defending his belt, he's not clearing out divisions. Well, if you beat the guy that cleared out the division, you cleared out the division. If nobody in the division can beat Tony Ferguson and Conor does, that's, to me, the equivalent of clearing out the division. If somebody goes down and beats Max Holloway at this point, you can pretty much consider them as clearing out the division. Because if nobody else, if Frankie Edgar beats Max Holloway, I'm fine with him saying he cleared out the division. You get what I'm fucking saying. Because nobody can beat Tony Ferguson. Nobody. The only person who might have a shot now is Conor McGregor or Khabib, and with Khabib's health issues and just the way shit goes with Khabib, we don't know if we'll ever get to see that fight, unfortunately. Maybe it'll be Khabib versus Kevin Lee next on the same card as Conor versus Tony. Winner fights the winner. Who knows? A lot of interesting shit can happen. But Kevin Lee came out, yeah, and he said he fought with a staph infection or whatever, and the Ariel Helwani, I believe it was, asked him, like, did the doctor let you fight with that? Like, well, how did you even get cleared? And he was like, you know, I did my best to hide it. And they asked Tony Ferguson about that later. They was like, he said he hid it from the doctors. You know, how do you feel? He was like, how did you hide that? It's a fucking target. I know I was aiming for it. Like, how would you hide that from the doctors? And that's interesting to me. I mean, I don't know enough to just really question that. But what I'm going to say is, if the doctors see you have staph infection, can they just let you fight like that? I don't know. I'm sure if they don't know about it, you can fight. Kevin Lee clearly went in there and fought, and I really don't know enough about staph infection. I don't know if that affects your cardio. I know the weight cut probably affected his cardio more often, but the fact that we don't know what's going on with, really, that might be something you can question about Kevin Lee, because, like, I mean, I think it was Charles Summon that said it. He has never been in the 5-round club. He's never fought a 25-minute fight, so I don't know if we chalk it up to the fact that he's never been in a 5-round fight. I don't know if it's because of the weight cut. I don't know if it's because of the staph infection, but we do know Kevin Lee did have a little bit of cardio issues. It was looking like going into that 3rd round, and maybe even at the end of the 2nd. I'm just gonna chalk that up to the bad weight cut, just for now. But we'll see. We got to keep an eye on that as well. So Kevin Lee, you know, he cried a little bit. He was a little devastated. He did say Tony Ferguson's the true champion. You know, he was saying before that fight, this is for the real belt. He said Tony Ferguson's the true champion. I mean, he did what he did. There's no quitting Tony. And he said he came from the same alma mater as me, and so I know how tough he is. Tony Ferguson's the best in the world. So, hey, it is what it is. Next was Dana White. He came out. And Kevin Lee did say he's going to start pushing for the 165-pound division, but I think we already talked about that. Dana White said fight of the night went to Lando Venata and Bobby Green. Performances of the night went to DJ and John Moraga. John Moraga got that big, I believe, first-round knockout over Magomed Bibulatov. He came out and he said, first off, he congratulated like Demetrius Johnson and said Joe Rogan told him that he's never even seen that in a jiu-jitsu match. He said DJ is the best. He broke Silva's record in spectacular fashion even. And then he brought up how he feels like he disrespected Ray Borg with the TJ Dillashaw fight because Ray Borg really came to fight tonight. He said he feel like tonight the fact that the crowd was chanting DJ's name means that like he's starting to come along. It takes a little bit longer for some guys. He said, you know, I used to wonder for the longest why didn't Chuck Liddell catch on until and then one time, you know, when he just did one fight. Anderson Silva, it was a while, you know, I remember the exact fight Anderson Silva caught on, but for a while we were wondering why wasn't Anderson Silva catching on. It just takes a little bit longer for some of these guys. And Demetrius Johnson, he thinks he finally caught on, and I can agree with that. I mean, Demetrius Johnson, man, he fucking did his thing. Even though you can say what you want about him from Ray Borg, I mean, he has cleared out the division. He is the only flyweight division to ever exist and the longest reigning title fucking division. You gotta fucking respect Demetrius Johnson, whatever you want to say. He said Dana White also continued to talk about Derek Lewis's back locking up, and the doctor said he can't fight. And he said Kevin Lee looked awesome this fight. His jiu-jitsu looked great tonight. And he talked about that weight cut. He said, we offered him help at the Performance Institute to cut weight. And he said, nah, I know what I'm doing. I don't need help cutting weight. And you seen what happened. I mean, it came down to the wire. But Dana White said he's a grown man. I can't make him do anything. Either you want to come in and do it right or you want to do it your way. And he said DJ's definitely the GOAT. Broke Silva's record. He talked to Matt Humes, DJ's coach. And he says he does that mighty bar like all the time in practice. He didn't say the word mighty bar, but he said, yes, this Demetrius does that all the time in practice. So since that move was so dope, they'll probably start trying to use that as like Demetrius Johnson's move, because that was fucking sick. I mean, every time I see a Demetrius Johnson fight, you gotta throw that motherfucking clip up every time. Every time. I want to see that shit right now in slow motion, repeated. That shit was so fucking dope. God tier, as I don't got your name down, but God, that shit was God tier. Dana White says he thinks he will get Chris Cyborg versus Holly Holm done. It's not done yet, but he believes it will get done. There's little work that has to be done, though. He said he does want to fight again this year. He talked about it a little bit, talking about Conor McGregor. He said McGregor, they only talked a little bit, but Conor McGregor does want to fight again this year. You know what that means, though, because John Kavanagh, Conor McGregor's coach, said it definitely won't be this year, which is interesting. Yeah, now that's interesting. Dana White said Conor McGregor said he does want to fight again this year, but that would be December 30th. We have seen a report that came out. He said Conor McGregor said he wants to do no media if he does fight again this year. With the recent tragedies in Las Vegas, with the card December 30th being in Las Vegas, I don't know how much it will play into a part, but I do think that would give Conor McGregor a little extra motivation to fight again in Las Vegas, December 30th. You know, I'm sure he posted a heartfelt statement, so I think that'll help get Conor McGregor back, you know, in December 30th. So I do personally, my prediction is we will see Conor McGregor again December 30th. And it will be against Tony Ferguson, which will be dope as fuck. On that card, we've already got Jimmy Rivera and Dominic Cruz. We've got another big card they got fucking announced for that card, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. So, yeah, man, Dana White said Conor does want to fight again by the end of the year, but it's not done either. That's definitely not done. He said, and then Tony Ferguson was after Dana White. He said, Tony Ferguson, man, I suggest you go watch Tony Ferguson's interview, because it's hard to kind of write down what Tony Ferguson says, because it's kind of like, you get the point, man. His saying, he says like sayings and quotables, and I don't know. So if you know Tony, it's hard to like just write. It's hard to transcribe what he's saying. If you were like writing down everything he's saying as he's talking, it kind of throws you off. It was kind of hard, but He did say pretty much he doesn't only have a Darce choke. He has plenty of weapons in his arsenal. And even though that's true, bro, Demetrius Johnson doesn't only have a mighty bar. Dan Henderson doesn't only have the Hendo bomb. But it is smart to market yourself a move like the Von Flue choke or the St. Preux choke. We need a Tony Ferguson Darce. Like, bro, that's a good marketing thing. Like, oh shit, he might get him in the Tony Ferguson Darce. Like, you know, don't come out here and say I don't just have a Darce. Even though we know you don't just have a Darce. It's dope to have a move associated with your name, in my opinion. Like, to me, that's dope. Whenever you talk about Tony Ferguson, you mention his Darce choke. Whenever you talk about Stone Cold Steve Austin, you mention the motherfucking stunner. So even if you don't use every fucking, even though your jiu-jitsu's deadly as fuck and you have plenty of weapons in your arsenal, bro, you also got a badass Darce, dog. So with that being said, he said, I was the matador of this fight. Kevin Lee was the bull. I slapped him on his ass and he came forward. He said he was saving all of his good material for Conor McGregor, but he did show that Kevin Lee didn't deserve to be up here, but he said he was saying that before the fight. You know, he didn't deserve to be in this fight. I said that before the fight, and I showed it in the fight, but he is the only guy that would sign the dotted line. And, hey, that's something they can both agree on. Who else wanted to fight Tony Ferguson? Good question. I mean, I believe some people would have fought Tony Ferguson. Nate Diaz didn't know. I mean, there were some guys that didn't want to fight Tony whenever Khabib pulled out of the fight and shit. So Tony Ferguson's got reason to believe, and no one else wanted to fight him. And hey, Kevin Lee signed the dotted line. But he did say Conor is next, though. He said Conor's next. He said he will fight Khabib, but Conor's next. He said, I'm a full, complete mixed martial artist. I don't just have hands. I didn't need to take as many shots as I took in the first round, but you have to give one to get two. And they said, what are you going to do to Conor? He said, man, I'll ankle pick him. No point. Bro, stop saying fucking ankle pick. You want to tell people you don't have just a Darce, and nigga, I've heard you say ankle pick like 3 times in the last 2 days. You want to be Tony ankle pick Ferguson or Tony Darce Ferguson, dog? I mean, I know you're Uncle Cooey, but I'm saying, what do you want to be your finishing move? What do you want to be marketed as? Hey, yo, watch out for Tony Ferguson's ankle pick. Quit saying that. No, it's the Darce, bro. The ankle pick shit was hilarious in the Fabricio Werdum shit because he was heavy. I'll ankle pick your ass. But now he's taking it too far with the ankle pick, in my opinion. He said, I'll ankle pick him, no problem. Ankle pick him. He said, no problem, that boy's scared. He's never mentioned my name not one time, and I'm on a 10-fight win streak in the lightweight division. I'll fight Khabib, but Conor's the fight. You can't run anymore, you're in check, and I'm a great chess player. I built my own camp safe so I wouldn't get injured. I'm still a student of the game, and I'm going to bring humbleness to this game. This is chess, and he's in check, and it's going to be checkmate soon. Defend or vacate. Conor, you can just set it down and walk away, and no one will get hurt. Woo! He said, I want that Hall of Fame spot. I'm not in it just for the money or the belt anymore. I want that Hall of Fame spot. I'm aiming for the big picture. This is a marathon, not a sprint. How could you, and then they asked him about the staph infection. He said, how could you hide that staph infection? He gave me a target to aim for. Shit, I would have shown up and fought with a broke toe. I would have did whatever I needed to do to win that belt because I'm a champion, so no excuses. But fuck yeah, dog. Tony Ferguson, I feel like it was just such a great event, bro. I feel like Kevin Lee got more respect than, you know, if he would have won the fight, he might have even got more hate than he's getting now. Because, you know, he lost the fight. You could tell the fight meant everything to him. He put his heart on his sleeve. He showed up and fought after the bad weight cut, which of course you're supposed to do. But he had the staph infection, fought through it. I mean, you might not give a fuck about that either. He showed he had better striking than you probably thought he had. A lot of people I seen that, hey, I was a hater of Kevin Lee. But even though he lost, he fucking earned it tonight. I'm looking forward to the rest of his fights, and that's all you can ask for. And that's one of the things about talking shit, bro. You do all that to sell the fight, but afterward, you earn each other's respect, and you move on past that shit. He's not coming out here after the fight like, man, fuck Tony Ferguson. He got lucky. No. He was selling the fight, bro, but now that the fight's over, he don't need to sell it anymore. The rest of these guys, if he talks about, he's selling a fight. After the fight, you can't tell me Tony Ferguson didn't earn his respect. He did say Tony Ferguson's the true champion. Tony Ferguson's the best in the world, so fucking hats off to Kevin Lee. He sold the fight, then he came out there and got humbled, and he was humble. Now he's still Kevin Lee. He's still probably gonna talk shit in his next phone interview. He's still probably gonna talk about these other dudes. He's still probably gonna call out Khabib, and he's still probably gonna have people that hate on him. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, he's also earning a lot more fans with what he's doing. Because even if you thought he was a faker or whatever the fuck, a lot of people watched that fight and said, hey, even though I didn't like him at first, motherfucker, much respect to Kevin Lee. He went out there and did his fucking thing. So, good shit, man. I've been consistent with my motherfucking feelings toward Kevin Lee and Tony Ferguson. As fucking you triggered trolls in the comments want to fucking hype yourself up and lie. I don't know what the fuck y'all are listening to, but there's not one fucking video. You can go back and motherfucker, you know how often I do this. It's a full-time grind, dog. You can go back to any video. You can't find me picking Kevin Lee winning the fight. I said I wouldn't be as surprised if you guys are, but I am picking Tony Ferguson to edge the fight out. I've said it in my Kevin Lee versus the world video. I said it in my Tony Ferguson versus the world video and my motherfucking UFC 216 prediction video. So eat a dick on that note. With that being said, I'm still a huge Kevin Lee fan. Don't get it mistaken. I still enjoy his personality. I still enjoy his fighting style. I'm same thing with fucking Tony Ferguson, and I do feel like it's Tony Ferguson's fight now. I feel like the Nate Diaz talk is out of the window. If Tony Ferguson, for now, Nate Diaz will always be there for Conor. If Conor loses to Ferguson, he can go fight Nate. If he wins, it'll be even bigger. But that doesn't matter. It's Tony Ferguson's time now. 10-fight winning streak, interim champion. Look at that, bro. Max Holloway and Tony Ferguson, both of these dudes had to go on like 10-fight winning streak to become the interim champion. Well, you know, that's what happened. That's how you make your own star right there. You have to literally, if you're not that guy already, if you're not a guy the UFC is going to market, if you're not going to sell your fights talking shit, well, you better be out here whooping a whole bunch of ass, clearing out a division and making people pay attention. Because the UFC, I mean, a lot of people could have jumped on Tony Ferguson or Max Holloway's bandwagon when they were on a 5-fight winning streak. Like, oh, why ain't they getting the title shot? No, these motherfuckers kept pushing. They could have been at 7 fights. They could have set out like, hey, man, I'm on a 7-fight win streak. Fuck that. I'm waiting on a title shot. At 8 fights, they could have did it. 9 fights, they could have did it. Man, these motherfuckers are out here whooping ass and clearing out the division. They ain't even earning their title shot. They're forcing that title. They are earning it too, but they're forcing it. Hey, you ain't got no more contenders because I'm going to take them out. And if they're dodging me, I'm going to call them out on it. That's another thing about what he said that's hella true that we really don't talk about much. Why does Conor McGregor never mention Tony Ferguson? Why? Out of all these people, you don't see him mentioning Tony Ferguson much. Tony Ferguson said it's because he's scared. I don't know about that, but to be somebody, a prominent figure in the lightweight division, you got to have Tony Ferguson on your motherfucking mind. Got to. And that's one thing Conor has not did. He has not really talked about Tony Ferguson. I'm sure he'll say something real soon because that's his next fight. So I'm looking forward to what he says soon. With that being said, Tony Ferguson was the last member of the UFC 216 post-fight press conference. I'm going to try and get some shit done because I definitely want to do that stream today. It'll probably be a couple hours from now. So if you haven't subscribed to Full-Time MMA 2, make sure you do that because that's where the live streams happen. You can find the link in the description or on the main page. With that being said, it is what it is, dog. I'm about to do a UFC 217 fucking this same shit. What is it called? A fucking not even a reaction, a fucking recap. All right, that's what it is. So it is what it is, man. Let the hitters know what the fuck you tell me in the comments. I'm out.
Bye, Felicia.